Alright, so we're going to be drawing the garage floor plan now, and we're going to be using the same model space as we've used for our foundation plan. We're just going to be drawing it next to it. So one of the things that I'm going to do first is I'm just going to draw some construction lines. Now the construction lines I'm going to draw are going to be horizontal construction lines, which are going to allow me to make sure that I have everything lined up from one plan to the other, from the foundation plan to the garage floor plan. So I'm going to use a no plot. So I have a no plot, sort of a construction line type here, and I'm going to be using an X line, and I'm going to make this a horizontal X line, and I'm just going to pick it up. Oops, turn my snaps on here. I'm just going to pick a point at the front and the back of that garage plan. And now when I draw my foundation plan, I'm going to use these lines as sort of a reference so that I can keep everything in line. So I'll have the foundation plan, the garage plan, and the main floor plan. So you'll be able to see what's going to line up. It makes it really handy, especially when you're looking at plumbing, where plumbing lines are coming down, things like that, or sewer lines, and you can actually see exactly how all these elements line up. Not only that, but it's also going to make it a little bit easier for when you get to doing your elevations. We can actually use those reference lines as for your elevation. Okay, so a little bit of an X line there. That'll get taken out later, but we'll leave that for now. And I'm going to switch over to my A wall layer, and that's what I'm going to use for creating my walls. Okay, so I'm going to use a rectangle command. Again, if I use the rectangle command, then I can actually, let me just see here if I can do nearest. Oh, there it is. So just pick a point, say over here, and I'm going to do 21 feet by 27 feet. There we go. Okay, so I can delete those if I want, or I can maybe even change the style of them. If I change the line style, I can make it perhaps dashed or something like that, so it's not so obvious, it doesn't get in the way as much. And that's going to represent sort of the outer limits or the outside exterior of the exterior wall of our wall. And from now what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset 6 inches. 6 inches is the thickness of this wall. That's what we decided we were going to use, was 6 inches, so I'm going to offset 6 inches there. Now I like to lay out all my walls first. So I find that's the most important thing, is just laying out all of the different walls. While I'm on the wall layer, it kind of makes sense as well. So I'm going to draw another line now that's going to be from the inside here. What dimensions do we have? We have 4'4" actually from the outside. So the mechanical wall is 4'4". So if we do a dimension, throw a quick dimension on that just to make sure. Yeah, we got 4'4". That's what the mechanical room says it's going to be. Now the thickness of this wall is going to be 4.5 inches. Now that represents a 3.5 inch stud wall, as well as 1/2 inch for drywall on both sides. So we're going to use 4.5 inches here. Going to offset to the inside and offset to the inside. And now this one, because I didn't use a rectangle, I'll have to trim out the excess, which is fine. I don't mind doing that. I'm going to have to do it anyways. Just clean up all my corners. And the last one that I want to do is I want to do this mechanical chase that's over here as well. So the dimensions that we have for that one, going from the back, is 10'9". So I'm just going to do a little line here. This is just going to be a temporary line. I'll just come down 10'9", and I'll come across. Turn my ortho on here. I'll come across. I don't know exactly how far in to come in yet, but we'll just get that line in for now, and then I'll copy this one. The width of the chase, so this is going to be 3'3.5". And I'm also going to draw another line. It's going to be from, I will say from this point here. And we need to draw it in, I think we said, actually, just real quick here, I think we said that we need to have at least 3 inches. So let me just do 2 inches here. That's going to be the point of the foundation wall. And then we want to be at least, say, 4 inches in. That's going to be the inside of the chase there. So what I did is I just did a little construction line. This is actually going to get me to the inside of the wall. So the way I've configured this is that we have our 2x6 wall, which is sitting on top of the foundation wall. I could actually draw that in right now. The foundation wall is offset 2 inches to the inside of the exterior wall. So this is going to be the foundation wall, the line that's shown dotted right now. And for this wall here, I'm going to be actually using a different layer called A detail line. So we'll go right up to the top here, A detail and light line. So that's going to be the top of the foundation wall. Remember, we'll see that in this view because when we take our section through the walls, we're actually going to see the top of the foundation wall. It's 8 inches. So if I were to do a measurement here, from here to here, you'll see that that's 8 inches. That's the inside of that foundation wall that we'll see. And now I want to be able to get some plumbing down into the center here, and that plumbing stack's probably going to be about 3 inches in diameter, so about 1.5 inches radius. And so in order to get plumbing down into that space, we kind of need to make sure we have about 4 inches, I would say, from the edge of the foundation wall to the inside of that mechanical chase. So that's just sort of a little bit of geometric construction that I'm going to use in order to create that wall. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset 4.5 inches. So I'm going to offset 4.5 inches this way. And because this is the bottom side of this wall, I'm offsetting 4.5 inches this way and 4.5 inches this way. And now I'm just going to clean up all of my corners. When I use the chamfer command, I'll clean up this wall to this wall to this one, this to this, that to that, and I'll just delete out all the excess. Again, I'll use my trim command here. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to actually trim out where you have the wall which intersects with the foundation wall. I want to actually trim that out as well because we're not going to see that. That wall that's sitting over top of that foundation wall is going to cover the foundation wall, so you won't be able to see that line as it passes through. We're also going to do the same thing around here. So you notice I've actually, it's already kind of done it for me, but let me just join those lines again. Join these lines. And I'm going to do a trim. Oops. And trim out those. So I won't see those lines because the wall is actually in place of those, but they will in fact be there. So we do need to show them the rest of that foundation. Oops. Okay, so there's my walls. They should be located in approximately the location that I want them to be. If they're not, I can always tweak them later. Okay, so now that we have the walls drawn, we have our foundation line drawn. That's steps number 1 and 2. We're now going to look at openings. So we're going to actually now draw our openings. So you remember back to the lecture when we did our windows. We're going to be drawing, I'll draw a window symbol here first so we can get that window out of the way. And the window symbols are actually going to be using, the frame is going to be a glaze frame. So this is going to be the frame. Then we're going to have the sash. And the sash will also be a glaze frame. And then the glass is going to be a glaze glass. So that's the layer we're going to use for that. So let's draw the frame first. So I have a 6-inch wall here. And I want to draw then a rectangle that's going to be 6 inches long by 1.5 inches high. Okay, so that's going to be my frame. Now I'm going to draw a sash underneath that, and the sash is going to be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. So again, I'll use a rectangle command, and I'll just go at 1.5, comma 1.5. That's going to be my sash. Now I want to locate that in the midpoint. Well, depending on the type of window, I'll locate it at the midpoint for now. We'll move it around if we need to. The midpoint of my frame. So I just kind of snapped it to the midpoint of my frame. And now I'm going to do my glass, so I'm going to switch layers. And I'm going to draw my glass. My glass is going to go from the center here. And I'll just draw it an arbitrary length for now. What I want to do is actually mirror this. So I'm going to select the mirror command. And I'll mirror this object. The first point of my mirror line will be there. Second point there. I want to keep the original objects. So I'll say no to that. And now I'm going to actually, because it's a slider window, I'll make a couple modifications. I'm going to copy my sash from one end of the glazing to the other. And now I'm going to actually take a copy of that. And I'm going to place it side by side. So I've actually drawn a little wrong. Let me just go back and fix that here. I actually want it to be side by side like this. And I just have to move my frame out of the way. like so. I've got 2 copies of this of the sash there now. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm just going to move my frame over here. And I might as well just center everything as well. Actually, let me do a construction line here just to get the center point. So that should be centered. Now in terms of the width is going to change. We know that these are equal length right now, so I can use the stretch command if I want to, depending on the length of the window that I need. So we said that this window is probably going to be a 3-foot slider, 3 feet wide. So if that's the case, then I'm just going to do a quick dimension on here to see what I have right now. Yeah, it's 3 foot 6 and 5/8. So I'm going to have to shrink that 6 and 5/8 of an inch. All right, so that gets a little tricky to do the calculations on. But I'm going to do 3 and 2.5 sixteenths. So actually, what's that going to be? 3 and half of 5/8 is. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll stretch that 3 and 5 sixteenths. So 3-5 sixteenths. Yeah, I think that worked. Because of our precision is only 1/8, then it's not going to give us everything. But let's do 3 and 5 sixteenths here. Yeah, that should work. Okay, so now if we do a double check to make sure that's in the center, I just want to, yeah, 1 foot 6, 1 foot 6 on both sides, perfect. Okay. Now the other thing that we're going to include here as well is I'm going to use this frame layer. Now that doesn't include the actual lines that would be in the walls. So I'm going to include those as well. So those lines would kind of go, you know, from frame to frame. And that's just a real rough view of our window. So I'm going to place now that window into the wall. I'll just place it arbitrarily for now, and then I'll draw a dimension to the center so that I can position it in the wall. This is just a temporary dimension. Now we're told here that this one is 10 foot 4 is the dimension there. So let me just do another line. Rather than doing the calculation, I'll just do a line that's 10 foot 4. So that's where the center point should be of that window. So now I can just move this. That point right there. There we go, 10 foot 4. And delete my original lines. So that's the window. Now we can do the doors. We can focus on the doors. So the door is very similar to the window. The door is going to use a different layer though. It's going to use a door layer. So we'll switch over to a door layer. And I'll do a rectangle. My rectangle is, again, it's a 6-inch wall. I'm going to do and this is going to be the, because I want my door to be oriented a different way, it's going to be 1.5, 6. So that would represent one of the sides of the frame. And I'm going to make a copy of this frame. And if I want a 3-foot slab in between that door, then I'm going to copy this 3 foot 1 and 1/2. And now we should have exactly 3 feet between the frames, which we do. And now I'm going to draw my slab, so I'll use a rectangle here. I might as well start it in the center point here and just work my way backwards. So this is going to be at -1.5, -36, so there's 3 feet. Okay, so that's my door slab, and now I'm going to actually do an arc. Now the arc is done with a different layer. It's actually done with a layer called a door outline. There it is right there. And so I'm going to use an arc for that. Now I always forget which ones to start with. I think it's this direction here. Yeah, there we go. So the arc is going to be something like that. Let me just have to fix it up here a little bit. Move this, whoops. There we go. So that's going to represent the swing pattern there. And yeah, that should work. So that should be a really thin line. And we've got our slab there, so that represents a 3-foot door. Now again, we can make, because we're going to be using these door symbols in many places, we could actually turn these into a block. Might be an idea to do that at this point here. So I'm going to create a block, and I'm just going to call it 3 foot door. My base point of the door is going to be, I'll just pick a point here, maybe this corner or something like that. Make sure it's on convert to block, and make sure I have allow exploding. And now that should be a block, so I can now insert that into my plan. So I'll insert it here for now, move it over just a bit, and let's figure out exactly where it needs to go. So we're 3'3" to the center of that block. So I'm going to actually draw a line so I can get a center point of that line. I'll draw a construction line here. That's 3'3". And then I'll bring it down through, and now I'm going to move my block so that it's centered. That line, there we go, and erase the original lines. And now I'm going to trim out the excess. So I'll start trimming out everything for now. And the only thing that we're going to be able to see underneath that is we're going to be able to see the edge of the slab. So the slab is actually going to make its way around the door frame at the door buck. So this actually needs to slip back a little bit. This needs to come back to a point about here. And I'm going to choose that as my current layer because I like that line. That line actually is going to be the line that we're going to be using to finish off the rest of this floor slab here. So let me just modify this polyline a little bit. So we're going to pull it back to the corners of the frame. And then we're going to use that same line type to draw and connect the back there. So that door will actually break up the wall, but it will also be, because there's a door buck, there will be the foundation wall will also be broken up by that door as well. So now we can see that our opening, the slab, is actually going to come around the foundation wall, go to the back side of that door frame, and then come back in again and follow the lines of the foundation wall. That's going to be our door slab. So we might as well do the big door now. Big door is very similar to the small one, so I'm actually going to make a copy of this, and I'll just paste it, and I'll just kind of explode it and get rid of all the lines that we don't need. So I'm just going to keep the frame for the most part, except the distance now between the frames is going to be a little different. So I might as well copy this. Distance between the frame is going to be 16 foot 1.5 inches. Move that to the line here. Let's just double check to make sure we have 16 feet between the frames, which we do exactly. And now I'm going to draw a slab, so I'll make this my current layer, a door layer, and I'm going to draw a slab that's going to be, now this one is going to start from the back corner of that frame. We're going to make it at 16 feet, comma 1.5 inches. And what happened there? Didn't work. Oh, okay, let's try that again. My at symbol wasn't an at symbol. So there would be the frame of my garage door. Might as well turn that into a block as well. Not that we're going to be using it in other places, but just makes it a little bit easier for placing. So you can actually place it right at the very center. So we do the midpoint there, convert to block. Now I can actually take that and I can place it right in the very center of my block. Now I'm going to trim out the excess. I don't have anything to trim against yet here. And I'll just clean up my foundation wall. And I'll draw a line that represents the front side of that slab, the outside of that slab. Alright, so now the walls, oh, we missed a door here. We got one more door to put in. I'm going to make a copy. I believe this is also a 3-foot door, if I'm not mistaken. See if we can get a 3-foot door to fit in there. I'm going to rotate this one 90 degrees. I believe that's the right orientation as well, and I'm going to place this in the wall. Now the only problem with this one is that yeah, so it's going to be a bit too big for this space, so we might actually have to make a change to this wall. We might have to either, well, we can make the door a little bit smaller. Let's turn it into a 2'8" door. So I'm going to explode this door, and I'm going to use my stretch command. See if this will work here. Take out all the objects I don't want to stretch. And I'm going to shrink it back, so instead of 3 feet, I'm actually going to shrink it back 4 inches. Okay, which means I also need to stretch this back 4 inches. Okay, we've just made that now, instead of a 3-foot door, we've made it a 32-inch door. which is 2'8", and that is a standard door size, and that actually looks a lot better, and I think it'll work quite well actually. The only other thing that we need to do is we actually need to stretch now this frame. So we need to stretch that 1.5 inches. There, so now it fits into that space. Let's use our trim command, see if the trim will work. Yeah, it does. Oops, got a little extra there. And this doesn't have any lines on the floor that we need to draw, so we're pretty much done with that door now. Now that we have our our garage drawn, now this garage door is actually, when it opens up, because it's a sectional door, when that garage door opens up, it's actually going to take up a little bit of space in the roof, sort of above where the cars would park. And we should probably show that in the plan. Reason being is that we want to make sure that we don't place anything in that line of where the garage door needs to come up. Otherwise, the garage door won't open. So a lot of times it's useful, or it's handy to actually put a dotted line in which represents the full opening of that door. So we've actually got a layer for this. It's A floor overhead. So this would be anything that's sort of overhead in that door. And now I'm going to draw a line. Now this garage door is 16 foot by 7. So I'm going to draw a line that's 7 feet long at the back, 16 feet wide, and bring it back down to the corner there. Now, what happened to my line here? I lost a line there. Must have trimmed it out by accident. There. So that just shows me where that door is going to be when it opens up fully. So it's 7 feet high. And now we can plan to make sure that there isn't going to be anything in that space that will interfere at the height of that door. So that door should be, you know, when it comes up, it should be about 7.5 feet high. And so we can make sure that there's nothing that's going to interfere with that. Okay, that's in section 3 as well. And we're actually going to, for this one, we're going to actually manually change the color of this to red. Because we want it to be a thinner line than what it actually shows right here. So we're going to change the properties. Instead of being by layer, we're just going to make it red. And then it'll print it with a thinner line, because red's actually a little bit thinner. We don't want it to highlight it too much. It's not an object per se. It's just showing us where the object would be. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our circle, our door and window tags. So for our door tags, we're actually going to be using a circle. Now the layer that we're going to use here is a door ident, which is this one here. So it's an identification layer. And we're going to create symbols that we're going to be using. And we can even incorporate them as part of the blocks if we want. Is this part of the block? No, this isn't the block anymore. We'll just throw them in for now anyways. But we could actually, it's probably be a good idea to create them as part of the symbol. And then that way, every time you add in a door, it's got the symbol attached to it. Okay, so we're going to create a circle here. Circles for doors and diamonds for windows. Because glass is closer to a diamond. And a circle kind of has an arc path, so I don't know, kind of makes sense, I guess. So we're going to use 12-inch diameter. It's going to be the diameter of the, the radius is 6, so 12-inch diameter circles. That's going to give us just a nice size to work from there. And we're going to use just a textile here, still under the same layer. The textile is going to be middle center aligned. And we're going to be using textile dims. So that should make it so it's a nice small text. Let me just get to my textile here. Okay, well, let me put it in for now. So we're going to go with the same numbers that we show on the plans there. I'll fix this in a second here. Go to my properties. Style is actually going to be dims. And justification is going to be middle center. And now I can actually connect this to the center of my window and door tag. There we go. And I might as well make a copy of that. Again, you could probably, maybe I'll do that. I'll actually incorporate this into my block. So I'll edit the block. And I just copied it before I brought it in, and I'm going to paste it in here. So I'm going to paste that into the block now. And then I'll close the block editor. All that means, though, is that you're going to have to actually, well, it should really be an attribute more than anything. We don't really have time for that today, but you probably want to create it as an attribute. And then that way you can double click on the block and edit it as the block. Alright, so let's create an attribute out of this one. So we're going to have to actually insert An attribute, define attributes. Alright, so let's call this door tag. Doors are going to use numbers, and windows will use letters. Justification, middle center, text style, dims. I think that should work. Okay. Let's give it a shot here. So now when we double click on it, okay, no, we need to update that tag. Just one sec here. Okay, so now when I double click on it, it comes up with what's the value you want it to be. In this case, we want it to be 8, and so it keeps that value. The only thing I noticed is that I didn't put this in on the right layer. So I'll go back and switch my door attribute to the correct layer. So it shouldn't be layer 0. It should be layer A door ident. This one here. And I might have to actually now synchronize again. Yeah, there we go. Now it's showing up gray. Okay, so this I haven't really, I haven't created this as a block, but I might as well do the same thing with this one. Now you may be using these doors again on your main floor, so it kind of makes sense to turn everything into a block. And then as you start building up those blocks, you'll have pretty much every door size in there already, and you'll have most of the door orientations drawn as well, which will make your job a little bit easier. So you might as well create this as a block as well. And we'll call this 2-foot 8-inch door. My base point, I'll just pick a point at the back of the frame. Oh yeah, it doesn't allow me to do... well, it will allow me to do this one, but I don't think it allows me to do this one. There we go. Specify insertion base point. Well, we're not inserting it. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, that's fun. It did it. Okay, that's good. Now we're just going to add in that tag. So make sure I'm on the proper layer here. As well. Double click on it. This one is door number 12. Perfect. Okay, and lastly, just to save the time of actually doing this all over again, I'm just going to just create a real quick one this time, okay? This is door number 11. And this I'm going to connect it to the midpoint. Just move it away just a wee bit. There. Alright, so we've got our door tags. Now for our window tag, we're going to be using a diamond for the window tag. And so there is a way to draw diamonds here. It's a polygon. Number of sides is 4. And if we want to inscribe it in the circle, you notice that it's already a diamond shape for us if we have the ortho on, which is really handy. And in terms of the size of this one here, we're going to be using a 12-inch diameter circle. So to specify the radius of the circle is going to be 6. Oh, and it rotated it for us. Isn't that nice? So let's rotate it again. We'll rotate it 45 degrees. There we go. And I'm going to insert now just some text in there. And in order to save time, again, you probably want to create this as There you go. You probably want to create this as a block within your window block, so it'll make it a little bit easier for updating later. And these are going to be letters. So for the windows, we're actually going to be using letters, not numbers. So the doors have numbers, the windows have letters, and that'll just make it a little easier for us to organize and keep them separated. There. Kind of looks a little funny, but just going to move it away a couple inches so it's not touching the door. Okay, and actually the layer there should be a window ident. So I'll change the layer of all that, or a glaze ident. Okay, so we'll have our identifications for the windows and identifications for the doors. Mechanical room. Alright, so for the mechanical room we're going to be first of all starting with drawing the equipment that we're going to need in there. So we're going to use the A equipment layer, so architectural equipment layer. There it is right there, A equipment. And I'm going to use a rectangle. So I'm going to do the furnace first. Now the furnace we said was going to be 12 inches wide by 18 inches high. And there's going to be a couple of sections like that that we're going to be separated by 3 inches. So I'm going to go, let's see, this would be 12 plus 15 inches. And I'll do another rectangle. It's going to be 3 inches wide by, say, 12 inches deep. And I'm going to place that in the middle here. Okay, so that's sort of the furnace, and then we could draw a line from corner to corner on the left side, like so. That will be our furnace. Now if we want, we could actually include a note in here, so if people were wondering what is that, we could actually include a note that says F for furnace. And just to help me position it here, I'm just going to do, this. There. So F for furnace. So that's our furnace. The hot water tank is very similar, except it's a circle. It's going to use, well, it's going to use the same layer. And this one here is going to be 18 inches diameter, so 9-inch radius. There's 18-inch diameter, and I already have a text item here. I'm going to actually copy that text item from the center, or somewhere around there. Anyways, I'll copy it into the center here. But we're going to change the text here. Now the text in this one is going to be HWT. Now I don't think it's all going to fit, so we might have to actually shrink that text down just a little bit. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go, say, 5-inch text height. There we go. So I kind of cheated the text height a little bit there, but there's our hot water tank. And the other one we're going to do is the electrical panel. So electrical panel we said was going to be 18 inches wide and 4 inches high. And we wanted a line that was going to be diagonal from one corner to the other. And now if we want to, we can even put the words ELEC underneath it if we want. So let's just bring our text item here. Try that again. There. Okay, so I'm going to move the furnace into place. Now we want this furnace to be almost touching the corner there. Not quite, but almost. So I'm going to move it away from the wall, say about 4 inches on all 4 sides. Okay, and that, just want to check real quickly to see how much room I have here. Whoops, hang on. Check the distance that I have for adding in the filter. So I got about 1.5 feet. That works out really well. Move my hot water tank. Now, hot water tank is going to go next to the furnace, not too close, but right about there, just arbitrarily. And the electrical panel is going to go tucked into the corner here, but not right on the corner. So let's move it a little bit here. Oops, hang on. I'll move it away from the corner, say 1 foot. That was not what I wanted. I need to have my ortho on. Hang on. Yeah, about 1 foot away from the corner. That's the mechanical room. Fairly easy. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our lines of the bulkhead or the overhead beam. So there's a beam at the front, and there's a bulkhead down the side. So I'm going to switch the layer here to A floor overhead. So A floor overhead, there it is there, magenta layer. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to make this line coming from 2 feet from the, what do we say, 2 feet from the inside, right? So use my from command. From, here's my base point at 24,0. That's going to be the start point, and I'm going to go all the way almost to the front, not quite. We'll just draw it to the front for now, and we'll end up moving it later. Now, we've got 8-foot walls, and that bulkhead's probably going to drop down about 8 inches, I would say, so we should still be okay with our door, but just to be on the safe side, you know, that's why we've got it at 2 feet and not any wider, is it should line up with that door. Now, they'll have to kind of figure out exactly how that's going to work on site. You know, once we get to the section, we may actually discover that that bulkhead might be a bit too low. We might have to make some adjustments to the bulkhead, maybe shrink it in a little bit. But really the door, that's why we have this little door symbol here. You can see now that if we had a conflict, this is something we need to investigate. So, you know, take a look at, okay, how high will that door actually be? Will it interfere with the bulkhead? How far does the bulkhead need to come into the space? It may not need to come all the way. We may be able to get all the heating that we need, all the heat ducts that we need prior to that, that door opening, and then we don't have to have a bulkhead interfering with that garage door. That's going to be the line of the bulkhead right there. And then we're going to have our beam as well, so we got a different layer for that. This is S-beam hidden, so all the way at the bottom. We're going to find S-beam hidden. And this one is going to be 3 feet from the front, because that's the point where the overhead, or the main floor, that's the point where the exterior walls and the main floor are. So we're going to do a line. Now this one's going to be from, and from this point here, it's going to be 3 feet back. So at 0,36. And this is going to be the line of the beam above. And we'll label those when we get into the notes. And actually, this bulkhead should stop for sure at that beam location. It's not going to go any further than that because there's no wall further than that, right? There's nothing that it needs to service beyond this line here. This is the line of the main floor. So when we draw our main floor here, this is the front of that main floor. So your construction line, you can actually move it onto this line here because that's going to be where the main floor is. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the stairs. Now we don't actually have to draw the stairs for the garage plan. We're going to do that with the main floor plan, but we do need to locate the columns for the stairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take a copy of these here. Because I've lined everything up, I can actually copy from the corner to corner along the same line, and that'll be the location of where the bottom of the stairs are going to be, and this will be the location where the columns are. And you can see it works out nicely with the door, where the door is located currently. Now the only thing that we need to do here is we actually just need to add in some columns over top of these precast brackets, which will support the landing for the main floor. So the stairs that go up to the main floor are going to be ending or terminating at a landing, which will be at the level of where the entrance of the main floor is, and those need to be supported by columns. So we're going to switch over to a different layer here now called S-Cols, S-C-O-L-S. There's our column layer. And I'm going to draw a rectangle that's going to represent my column. The columns are going to be 6 inches square. So at 6,6. So 6 by 6 columns is what we're going to be using there. Okay, and I'm going to move those into place, and we want the edge of the columns to be centered basically on top of the end of those precast brackets. So I'm going to take the midpoint of the back of the columns, and I'm going to attach it to the midpoint of where those precast brackets are. Now the bottom of the stairs are resting right on that precast bracket. There is no column at the bottom of the stairs that we have to worry about. So once we've got those located, we can actually now delete our precast brackets, and the location of our columns should be exactly oriented with the location of the precast brackets. Because it's the garage level, I mean, we could show the precast brackets. Might be useful maybe to show those. So I don't know. Let me think about that. I'll put them in for now. They are technically hidden lines anyways. We could still include them in, even though they're from the garage foundation level. It's a level that's very close There's only a few feet difference between the garage plan and the foundation plan, so we might as well leave them in. That's fine. Alright, so now I'm going to do some hatching on my walls. So I'm actually going to go to A-wall PATT, that's A-wall pattern, and that's going to be my hatch pattern. That's going to be the layer that I use for my hatch pattern. And for the hatch, now I'm thinking a 45-degree angle is what we should be using here. So let's find our ANSI 31. And we might have to adjust the scale, but let's just get something drawn in here anyways. Okay, that's way too tight of a scale. Let's try something else. No, we need to go a little more. That actually looks pretty good. So I use 24 there for the hatch pattern. I kind of like that. I might do a different hatch pattern. No, I don't want to do a different hatch pattern for those walls. They're all the same wall type. Oops, didn't want that. We'll have to take that out. And we'll have to take that out. We've obviously got some issues there. Okay, let me try. Just try picking points here. Try that again. See if I can get it to not blow up on me here. So far, so good. Yes, we did it. Yeah, that looks good. Just check it all the way around. Hatching is really weird with AutoCAD, isn't it? Like you almost have to be able to see everything. Like you have to have everything on your screen before you do your hatching. I think that should work out quite well. Okay, so we used the ANSI 31 hatch pattern with a scale of 24 inches. Okay, now we want to do our dimensioning. So I'm going to switch over to the ANODIMS layer. Now I realize this is blue for you guys here and may be tricky to see on the screen, but just bear with me. We've got the lights out, so it should be a little easier to see. So I'm going to, same process as I did for the foundation plan. I'm just going to go around all the outer corners of the building. Right, I'm just going to place my dimensions arbitrarily for now. And I'm going to dimension any wall that intersects with the exterior wall needs to be dimensioned on the outside of the wall. And I'm going to choose a side to dimension from. So for example, with this wall around the mechanical room, we have two choices that we can choose to dimension to. I mean, well, actually three choices. We could dimension to the center, which is really difficult because then we'd have to actually draw a line to find the center point. Or we can dimension to either side of that wall. If we choose either side of that wall, we have to be consistent with the side of the wall that we choose. So I can't switch it up. For example, this one I'll go to the left side, and then when I dimension this one, I'm going to go to the right side. I don't want to do that. I want to pick a side and stick to it. Okay, so I'm going to, in my case here, I'm going to go to the left side, just because I decide to go left today. I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent. Use my dimension continue. Now the only exception is with the exterior walls here. Those are the only things that need to be dimensioned to the very outer corner. Okay, now I just noticed as well that one thing that we arbitrarily placed our walls, but we didn't actually locate them properly, so I'm going to have to do a stretch command here in order to move things. Let me just draw a temporary line here. This is 8 foot 5 1/4. That's the outside of where that wall should be. Okay, so when I originally drew these walls, I didn't pay any attention to where they should be located.
And that's where it should be. Hopefully it doesn't mess up my hatch pattern, which it did. Should have done this before. Alright, so I'm going to have to cheat it a little bit here. So fix my hatching. Alright, good, problem solved. Oh, no, this one too. Something you hope you never have to do is fix your hatch pattern. It's a pain.
Okay, there, problem solved. Good. So now we got the proper dimensions And you notice that I chose the left side, which means that when I dimension this wall down here, I need to also choose the left side of the wall to dimension to. I'll bring this up, and I might actually move this dimension out because it was interfering a little bit there. And I might actually shrink this one back to there so we don't have any line showing. Okay, so left side of the wall is being dimensioned, and now I'm going to dimension along the sides. So I'm going to start from the top here, and I'm going to dimension to the top. So I've chosen the top. I'm going to be consistent with that. Dimension continue. Dimension. Now that means that when I come over here, I'm going to dimension to the top of the wall and to the top of this wall. Does everyone understand what I mean by being consistent with the side that you choose to dimension from? Okay. Now I don't need to do any dimensioning for inside of the wall here because it's already dimensioned. They already have the location of the wall on the outside in relation to the exterior wall, and we already have the location of this wall on the outside in relation to the exterior wall as well. Same thing with this wall here. We have a dimension relation to the exterior of the inside wall as well as each individual wall that comes back. So I don't need to do any other dimensioning on the inside of that plan, which means it's free for notes and anything else that we need to add, which is our next step. Sorry, we need to dimension our openings first, but our next step after that will be the walls. So let's dimension our openings now. That's going to be the third string. We usually dimension to the center line of any opening. And actually, one dimension is fine. We don't need to dimension all the way across. As long as we have that opening located, we don't have to dimension to each one. And now I'm going to dimension from the center of this one, which is going to be tricky because I don't really have a line there. So let me just do a temporary line so I can grab my center point. Okay, and then I'll dimension from the center to the outside edge. Move that out, and I might actually move that text just a little bit. I don't like how it does that. I guess we'll just leave it for now, but I might look at changing that. It should be fairly obvious, though, that we are centering that door in the wall. So even if we didn't want to include that dimension, we wouldn't have to because there would really be no location that they'd be able to put it. If it was really important that it got located a certain distance from the outside wall, then you would definitely want to put a dimension on it. But having said that, I don't really think we need it there. I mean, it was more just for our purposes so that we could see where it was. It is centered in that wall, so we can just leave the dimension out for that particular door. The other one needs to be dimensioned because we don't know how far away it is from the exterior wall. But we're going to leave that one. In this one, the exterior, again, this should be centered, but you know what? We've got room to dimension it, so we will dimension it for this one. And we also want to double check to make sure it is centered. Now what I'm going to do with this, because I don't like the fact that my dimension lines are crossing through the symbol, is I'm actually going to make the symbol that point. I'm going to move the dimension line out. It's a bit of a presentation thing again. And like I did before, I'm actually now going to dimension my dimensions. So I'm going to draw a line that's 3 feet out, and that's what I'm going to align my dimensions to. So that's 3 feet there. Well, again, draw a line. Now these, we probably should locate those columns, even though they will be on the location of the precast brackets, which were dimensioned previously. We'll throw a dimension on these columns as well, just for good measure. There you go. And I'm going to bring this up because I don't like crossing dimensions. So I'm going to bring this up like so. There we go. Okay. Let's make a few adjustments here. Snaps are causing me issues. Let's try the from command here. There you go. I just used the from command to space those ones out. Now remember the dim space or dim adjust. Went the wrong way. Figured that would happen. Oops. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. This is getting a little excessive here. We might have to do some modifications there. We'll take a look at that. It's stretching out a little too far. All I'm doing is just drawing a line 36 inches long, and that's the line I use to adjust my spacing so that I'm 3 feet from the wall. And I'm using the dim space command in order to adjust spacing so it's equal. Does look nice though, doesn't it? Oops. Very consistent, very neat. Now, the only thing that doesn't look good is this in here. It's because we've got all these dimensions here. So I think I might actually cheat a little bit, and I'm going to drop these dimensions down. I'm going to drop them down to this level here. So I think it should be fairly obvious to whoever's looking at these plans that these are the dimensions for the precast brackets and the columns. And then that will save us a little bit of room. So then we can actually shrink these down now. So let's do this. We can bring it down to that point. I can bring this down. The 3 foot mark. Yeah, that's going to be a lot nicer. Yeah, looks a bit better, hey? Okay, so that takes care of our dimensions, and now we just need to worry about our notes. Oh, sorry, I forgot the window. All right, dimensioning done. Now we're going to add some notes in. So I'm going to be using the Anno Note layer. Go back to my Annotate tab. Now for the, I want to add a title to the garage, and I want to be using a different size text style for the title. So I'm actually going to be using 3.5mm text height for the note for the garage here. Now that's a little, you may not have that text style configured yet. If you don't, that's fine. You can just do it. It's essentially the 3.5mm is a 8-inch or sorry, yeah, 8-inch high text style. And so then we can, now we'll put in double car garage. So if we look at the properties of that 3.5 millimeter text, it's actually, well, it's around 8 inches text height. That's just going to be title text, or you know, just a little bit larger than the DIMS. We still do have an official title text that we're going to be using, but it's even taller than that. It's 12 inches high, or 12.5 feet high, and or 5 millimeters when it finally prints. So the scale that we're printing it at is going to be about 5.5 millimeters, or 5 millimeters approximately. This will be 3.5 millimeters, and all of our dimension style text will be about 3 millimeters, 2.5 to 3 millimeters. So there's 3 different text sizes that we're using in this particular drawing. We're also going to use this same text style for the mechanical room, if we can fit it in here. And we might have to abbreviate that one. And just move it around so that it doesn't interfere, the text doesn't interfere. You know what, I might even move my electrical panel so that I have the room. They'll place the electrical panel where they need to place it anyway, so we're just showing the approximate location. So if we need to tweak it in order to fit the text in better, so be it. Okay, there's a mechanical room, double car garage. We're going to have to add in the line of the bulkhead, so that we're going to be using our DIMS text style, or 2.5 millimeter text. All right, I'll just choose DIMS. Okay, I'm going to have to rotate this text, but now this one here, we're going to call this line of bulkhead for mechanical. Now I'm going to rotate that text 90 degrees, and I'm going to place it, oops, come on, just on the other side of that line right there. So you'll see that's where the location is on the plan. We could actually indicate the size of this door. And do middle bottom center here. That's what we do. Maybe put on the inside just a bit. Overhead door, and then the last one we're going to do is we're going to put the line of the floor above as well as the beam. So we'll include that text here as well. 3-ply, 2x10 beam. I'm going to center, oops, let's center this text. And I'll move it so that somewhat centered in there. Now the last thing that we're going to put on this plan is we're going to put the direction of the joists so that people can see when they're looking at this plan, they can see the direction of those joists. So again, it is a note item. I'm going to draw a line here, and that line is going to be a double-headed arrow. So I'm actually going to draw another little arrow at the back here. So I'm going to go at, say, 6 inches with an angle of, would that be 135? Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side at 6 inches with an angle of -45. So you get a kind of this double-headed arrow like this. This is actually going to represent the direction or the span of the joists. So we need to indicate that so that when they're actually building the floor and they're planning out the mechanical, they can see the direction those joists are going. Those are the joists for the main floor. And really it makes sense to put that at this level because that's going to be right above their heads. The main floor, we're not going to be really dealing with that. The only time we'll deal with it again is when we get to the section in terms of showing the direction of the joists. So this is really the best location for it. And I know we didn't talk about that last class, but that's okay. So this one here we're going to do span and direction of joists. And I'm just going to move that up just a little bit here, like so. So now they can see that the joists are actually going to be running in this direction here. Okay, last thing we're going to do is we're going to put the little labels on things like our mechanical chase. So I might use a multi-leader arrow for that. Just tweak it a little bit here. There's a mechanical chase. What else do we need to label here? You know what, I might even actually label this line of the foundation below, because some people might be confused as to what it is that I'm actually drawing there. So I'm going to put line of foundation wall below. Let's try 2 separate lines just to make it a little neater. Okay, so that's the line of the foundation wall below, just so no one's confused as to what that is. And if we want to get real fancy, we can label the makeup of these walls. Probably should do that. Okay, so this one here is going to be made up of, well, I guess we'll go from the outside in, so we're going to be putting cladding on 3/8" OSB sheathing. Or sorry, on building paper first. Put moisture barrier. 3/8" OSB sheathing on 2x6, 2" by 6" stud wall. Comes with, complete with, our 20 batt insulation on vapor barrier on 1/2" drywall. Oh, what happened here? Or gypsum wallboard. I think it's safe to say we are finished.